Hello everyone, today I'm going to explain how to create a graph in Excel. When you first open Excel, it's going to ask you which type of document you would like to use. For the purposes of this class, you can just choose a blank document. You can either double-click on the blank workbook, or you can click on it and then press the Create button to open up a blank sheet. It should look something like this when you get done. When you're ready to start typing your data, the first thing I would do is to create a title. To create a title, click in cell A1, press and hold and drag over to cell B1. Then click the Merge and Center button at the top of your screen. This will combine both cells into one large cell. Now you can type your title. For my title, I'm going to type tree growth because that is what I measured. Press Enter to move to cell A2. When you create a graph in Excel, the left column will automatically become the x-axis. For this class, we always want the x-axis to be the independent variable, or the variable that you change. In cell A2 and B2, you're going to write the title for each axis of your graph, along with the units. For my A2, I'm going to write time because that is the variable that I'm changing. And I measured it in years, so I'm going to include that for my units. The units should go in parentheses next to the title. Clicking the Tab button will take you to cell B2. For this column, I'm going to write height, because I measured the height of the tree. And my unit is going to be meters. Press Enter to take you to cell A3. At this point, you are ready to start typing your data. When you type your data, make sure you're only including the number, not the unit. If you include the unit, it will mess up your graph later on. I'm going to type my data in column A by typing the number and pressing the Enter key to type all my data for column A first. Clicking in cell B3 will allow me to type my data for the height. When you finish typing your data, it should look something like this. Now that all your data is typed, you are ready to start creating your graph. First, you need to highlight your data. To highlight your data, click in cell A3, press and hold and drag over to cell B8. Make sure that you do not include the title when you're highlighting your data. Only the numbers should be highlighted. Next, click the Insert tab located next to the Home tab. Then click on the XY scatter plot and select Scatter from the top left corner. You should see a chart appear that looks something like the one below. With the chart still highlighted, click on the Quick Layout tab in the top left corner and select Layout number 9 from the bottom right corner. If you accidentally click off the chart, all you have to do is select the chart again by clicking on it, then select Chart Design from the top of your menu bar. Now, Quick Layout appears again in the top left corner. Click on Quick Layouts and select number 9 from the drop-down menu. This will add axes titles, an equation of the line, an R-squared value, and a legend to your chart. You can delete the legend since you only have one set of data, it is not really needed. The next thing I would do is to click on the equation of the line and move it so that it's not covering up your data. The R-squared value shows you how close your data is to a straight line. The closer the data is to 1, the better it is. At this point, all you have left to do is to type in your title, your axis titles, and your units, and you're done with your graph. I'm going to type tree growth at the top because I measured the height of a tree over time. I'm also going to change my x-axis to time with the unit of years in parentheses. When you type your data, it occurs in the top left corner over here. Press Enter to have it appear on your graph. For my y-axis, I'm going to type height with the unit of meters. This is what your final product should look like when you are done.